Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Alane Hathaway. Alane is the founder of At the Rising Moon. She is a divine healing conduit. She's had over 30 years of experience, and she has helped her clients negate negative energies and forces through celestial and angelic magic using the tarot. Alane, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad
I
to
love,
be
I see your dog.
Yeah, exactly. I warned you beforehand. It's like if a head pops up or something, it's just my dog. And I'm
I
glad I told you because he's got interesting coloring. He can kind of look like it's like, are you harboring a wolf? Yeah, okay.
I love it. I love your dog. So let me ask you this. So your journey as a divine conduit for more than 30 years, can you maybe share maybe some significant experiences or moments that ignited your connection with celestial and angelic energies, leading you to utilize tarot as a healing art form?
I absolutely can. Now, I haven't been doing this in a professional capacity for 30 years. I've
Sure.
been reading tarot, and I found out that I was attached to the Archangel Gabriel, who is the spirit of advanced communication,
Mhm.
helps bring people to their life's purpose when I was 12. I was in a house fire. My grandmother was an alcoholic. She set the house on fire. It was, as far as I know, an accident, but she was very, very ill and moved to the other end of a very large house. And so it was a mattress fire, and they have a tendency to smoke a great deal.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was dead asleep, and the firemen just could not believe that I ever woke up. And what actually happened was a voice that was not my own was calling to me saying, Alane, wake up, Alane, wake up. And I didn't want to. I was 12. I was dreaming I was sleeping, and there was somebody blowing cigarette smoke into my face or cigar smoke into my face. And then something seemed to push me out of bed, and I fell on the bed, woke up, and I heard Alane, wake up, the house is on fire.
So
And so
that go ahead.
that's how I found out. That's how I found out that there, and I didn't tell anybody for a long, long time because even at 12, I was like, I don't think you're technically supposed to hear voices. And I didn't hear it again for many years,
Yeah.
about 8 years, when I was starting to practice magic. And I only hear that kind of direct divine guidance on very important decisions.
Mm.
Oddly enough, Oscar, the dog whose head popped up, and like if I hadn't told you, you probably would have been like, what in the world is that? That he is one of the instances. I've had him for close to 9 years. He was available on a rescue group from St. Genevieve, Missouri. And I saw a picture of him, and I thought he was much, much smaller than he was. I drove like 2.5 hours in a terrible, terrible rainstorm to get him. And, kind of a long story short, ended up with a much, much larger dog than I ever intended to have because I was afraid. I saw him and I heard he's going to die if you don't take him. And then he was kept by a rescue group to be neutered because he wasn't neutered, he wasn't trained.
Yeah.
2 hours from there, and I had to keep driving 3 hours to see this dog. And as it kind of emerged that it's like he has no training, and I'm not good at training anything. I'm a complete rebel in my own regard. And so me trying to train something is like, do what you wish. It was not going to work. And I was panicking on the way back from Farmington's pet rescue in Farmington, Missouri, going, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? He's giant. He could hurt things. She said, see his paws. They thought he was part wolf. Um,
Wow.
and I heard in my head, what I'm going down the highway, having a panic attack, driving down the highway, going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't even train drugs. And I heard the voice say, you're going to call Kristen Butler at Stillwater Farms. She trains dogs. Now, did I know Kristen Butler? Yes. Did I have any idea that she trained dogs? No. But when I got home and looked at her website, she had just started a board and train program, and he went and lived with her family for 3 weeks, and she taught him
Wow.
because he didn't even know how to go up and down stairs. I don't know that he'd ever been inside.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so that's on a need to know basis, but I hear it for clients all the time
Gotcha.
when people get readings from me. In fact, I have to tell them, listen, it's from your perspective, it's going to sound like I'm talking to the cards, because I will ask questions aloud. And then, sometimes I am actually responding. And my clients are great about it. Like they know the difference between me saying like, okay, like not to them,
Mhm.
but to what I can hear something. It's usually the
Yeah.
other person's guides. But every now and then it will be what, I've always understood to be the Archangel Gabriel.
So Archangel Gabriel came to you when you were 12 years old. Like, did you at then know that that's who it was, or did, like you said, it took you until you're working with the cards to then like make that correlation
It
between?
took me a long time to
Yeah.
understand that Gabriel was the Archangel Gabriel, but I had
Yeah.
a very, 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 very traumatic childhood. A lot of people have terribly abusive backgrounds. The
Mhm.
only reason I ever talk about it is to tell people that, like, you're not defined by what happened to you. You can heal, you can overcome anything. Trauma doesn't define us, but it
Right.
does challenge us. But it was a very abusive situation. I was isolated a great deal. So I always knew something was there. We actually lived right next door to the only African American church in the area. And
Wow.
so I was, kind of cheek by jowl with, houses of God. And I went to the Episcopal church. I sang in the choir. I don't actually practice the Christian religion, but I was
Right.
very familiar with the figures from it. And I always knew something was there with me,
Mhm.
something watching me, taking care of me. I don't visually see this. I've only ever seen it once. And like it's not, I have an agreement with what I work with is like, I don't want to see spirits. I'm perfectly fine hearing things, but don't show me anything. And so as a child, I just thought that I had, a guardian angel named Gabriel. And I do not remember how I understood that it was named Gabriel. I don't understand that
Interesting.
to this day. I just knew that by the time I was 12, I understood, well, that's Gabriel. And
Yeah.
I didn't, when I'd meet with psychics and things throughout the course of my life, because I wasn't seeking them out. People would just find me and they're like,
Mm.
there's a giant man standing behind you. I'm like, that's Gabriel. So, and again, I only came to understand that it was the Archangel Gabriel
Mm.
as an adult through the course of being told multiple things that again were kind of a make or a break situation, like with Oscar. Other than that, I don't hear voices. I just
Mhm.
am guided by something that appears to tell me very important things at very important times. And when I'm reading for people, sometimes I'm talking to their guides, sometimes I'm talking to the people who are departed but around them who are trying to release their earthbound karma. That's the only type of spirit mediumship I do,
Mm.
is that if someone has lost somebody and they wish to make amends for something, sometimes they'll bring me a message through that. And sometimes I'm talking to when they are I'm called the crossroads guides. People
Mhm.
meet you when they're at a crossroads in their life to figure out which path they're supposed to take. And it turns out Gabriel is actually the archangel who helps with life's purpose, and
Yep.
life's purpose is part of a crossroads energy. And so that over the course of time, I finally understood. I was like, oh, it's an archangel. And as I started to practice celestial and angelic magic, I started out practicing candle magic and fog magic, and over the course of time, I developed it into celestial and angelic
Mhm.
magic, which is the only form of magic that is designed to defeat dark forces. So it can only be used for positive healing things, and also for things like, money when you need it. It can't be for greed. It has to be to take care of you when you're living in your life's purpose. Your needs are provided for, that type of thing.
Yeah. So one
Yeah.
of your the tools that you use is the tarot. So you
Yes.
emphasize the tarot goes beyond prediction, focusing on healing and improving outcomes. How
Mhm.
does tarot serve as a tool for releasing negative energies? And I know you just said about using celestial magic and subconscious pain, allowing individuals to tap into their true power and path.
I don't use magic and healing for most of my clients. I
Okay.
use the tarot, and then I give them, I'm a big believer in giving people free resources.
Yeah.
So many great ones on YouTube. I usually will send them healing
Hmm.
frequency. It's usually a personally designed program for them. Every now and then I have to do magic for somebody, but for the most part, I utilize tarot
Gotcha.
to the same set of cards that can tell you about the future, can tell you about the past
Mhm.
and the present. And if you understand what the past has done to you can understand the decisions that you're making in the present. And when you heal the shadow aspects of yourself, which is what is contained in the past, you improve your ability to choose well for yourself because you're in alignment with your highest self. And
Mm.
that opens up the future to you. I love predictive tarot. It's fun. But I think that tarot as a means for understanding self so that you can resolve any darker issues or shadow aspects, or simply to heal your trauma so
Mhm.
that you can be in full divine alignment with your purposeful self, and then guided towards where your path is meant to lead you. Because pretty much any tarot reader can look into the cards and tell you what's going to happen with my career and what's going to happen with relationships. And I can do that, and I do that.
Mhm.
And I do that for my clients who I'm also helping to heal. But I have found that the most effective and I think meaningful use of tarot is to look into, why do we often repeat these patterns? Why are we doing, and it's usually about trauma. And we often bury our understanding of what happened to us through a behavior set often based in stress and trauma that keeps us from understanding ourselves. Most people don't understand why they react the way that they do. Tarot is one, and oracle cards as well, are tools that can help you understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, you are solving the things that are holding you back. And when you do that, you're your empowered self, and you can go forward and have as many wonderful, and by the way, you'll be more connected to your intuition, but have a more meaningful experience in the here and the now. Predictive tarot is great, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
Healing tarot helps solve the problem. It helps you heal.
I think that's awesome. So like you said, let us know, you work with clients globally to address codependency, addiction, relationships, and personal purpose. Can you maybe share, if you can, a memorable transformation story where your guidance and tarot insights significantly impacted someone's life journey and helped them to overcome some challenges?
Absolutely. And this is, I was married for 20 years, and I won't go into that, but I did leave that marriage behind in a very like dramatic fashion in 2019. And it all was to align me in a place where I would be able to help a young woman named Megumi Ho. She has been on my podcast, guys, so I have complete permission to tell the story. She's it's Logical Magic Examining Esoterica. Megumi Ho is the gaslighting episode, and it's an amazing story. But she was 23 when I met her, and her boyfriend was 10 years older, so red flag right there. He was from another country. She was in London by herself. She was born in Hong Kong and is also Chinese. And she was very much under the, kind of power of this older person who began during lockdown to control her through what can only be termed narcissistic abuse. It was terrible emotional abuse. She and I encountered each other when I was asked to go read for one of the psychic lines, which is not something I would do now. I don't have anything against them, but I was surprised at the time that I was asked to do it. And it was so I could cross paths with her. She ended up in lockdown, isolated from her family in a Scandinavian country, and trapped with his family, where he began to so badly abuse her, she was thinking of taking her own life. And I was the only outside contact that she had. And I helped talk her through why she had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, why she was having the anxiety attacks that she was, why the ways in which he was treating to her and speaking to her were absolutely inappropriate. And if you hear that story, it's a bad one. Like, she's lucky she got away.
Wow.
But it's that. I was guided to cross paths with this young woman. And that's the one where I have, over the course of 3 years, watched her heal her trauma. She left that relationship behind. I managed to talk her through getting out of Norway and getting back to London. And even though he tried to stop her, she stuck with it. She was incredibly brave. I love her to death. She is one of my favorite people, let alone one of my favorite clients. But that's an example of that. I met her. She was under the control of an abusive person and at the whim of her emotional triggers. And we've worked together, and she had other help. She had therapists. I'm a big believer in kind of diversifying your approach and finding as many answers as you need. And she worked with a personal trainer and a therapist, and she has made incredible progress. And she now understands how to choose well for herself, and she understands herself and what went into making her. And so that's one of the examples.
Oh, that's a beautiful example.
And,
So
and it didn't involve any magic, guys. That was just, we had, occasionally I'll do magic. It's more than occasionally, but that was an instance where we would meet together, and she would talk to me about what was going on in her life, and we would look in the cards, and she was very much guided through that process.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love that. That's a beautiful story. And let's talk about your amazing podcast, Logical Magic Examining Esoterica. Can you tell us about your podcast? Where can we find it? What's it about?
It's on all the major services. It's hosted on Buzzsprout, and it's about different things. Sometimes I'm talking to people about Wicca or healing with cannabis, or I just talked to a man named Mike Jarrell, who is a life's purpose guide. And he actually, I called the episode From Prison to Purpose, because his rock bottom included a 2-year prison sentence. So I'll sometimes be talking to people about whether or not Atlantis is real. Sometimes I'll be talking to them about lunar magic. Sometimes I'll be talking about life coaching. And then a lot of my episodes are with my good friend Jacob Fluharty, where we look at the earth element, which is the psychological psychological element of trauma to discuss things like cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not a licensed therapist. I never pretend to be, but those are the techniques that we are often talking about. So we combine spirituality with psychology to help people have a more grounded approach towards healing and understanding of self. And there are things like the episode on the 7 energies, which are the 7 energies within you that you need to heal to basically achieve spiritual awakening and enlightenment and connection to your highest self, to be in alignment with your purpose. And again, it's not just about living your purpose. It's that you too will have all of the access to your personal gifts, including your ability to intuit things, to have your own ability to discern when you're in full alignment, when you're healed. And whatever's happened to somebody, you can heal from it. Like, my backstory is horrible. I've met people with ones that, like, even I was like, oh my God, Mike's backstory, my hair almost fell out just reading his bio.
Yeah.
But he is somebody who has claimed his power and his healing. And whatever has happened to you, there's a path out of that pain. You don't always have to feel like this, and you can heal.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's what we discuss on the podcast a lot, as well as fun things like magic.
Yeah. And how often do you have a new episode release? Is it weekly? Is it?
It is weekly.
Nice.
I just started my 2nd season. The first season is going to be out on, or the first episode of season 2, and that's with Ariana Platten, and it's going to be about rites and rituals, which is how to find the rites and rituals to sustain your practice, because we need to practice for your spirituality or for magic. There isn't one just universal truth. Nobody has the answers for everybody. We all have our own individual unique answers, as we are all individual and unique consciousness. And you may find that you need to pick and choose, or you may find you find an answer that fills a need during a time of your life, and then you evolve past it. So don't get wedded to the idea that there is only one answer for you. You will feel drawn to the right answers. You'll feel drawn to the right answers. So it's every Thursday. It downloads on all the major services: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. And then by Friday, it's uploaded and fully available. And there's always a video version of most of them. Not all my interviews have been on camera, but when I do have a video version as well, it's up on my YouTube channel, which is Cronecast, not Chromecast, but Cronecast, like the 3 magical stages of a woman's life, which is maiden, mother, crone. Crones have all the power. They have the wisdom, and they have the ability to control their power. Cronecast at the rising moon.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you some more questions. So hoodoo, based on ancient folk magic, is part of your practice. How does this?
No, it's actually not. I do not practice hoodoo. Hoodoo is a closed practice that is available to people.
Oh, it says you form a practice. You practice is the form of it.
Yes, it's a folk magic and hoodoo. Hoodoo informed most of the folk magic that most of my magic is based in, which folk magic from the Appalachian Mountains. And folk magic is a lot of fun, because the term folk actually means that they utilized what was available to them, and it is adapted. Celestial and angelic magic allows you to adapt different modalities to its practice, meaning since it cannot be used for anything other than positive purposes, you can use things like lunar magic or hoodoo or folk magic. But hoodoo is typically practiced by people who are African American. It was the people in slave quarters were practicing hoodoo. It is definitely part of the Black experience. But some of the candle magic that I do, that I post on my Instagram, people can tell that it has some of the same names as hoodoo, because the hoodoo practiced informed folk magic, upon which the candle magic that I adapted to celestial and angelic magic is based. So it's a cousin, but like since it's a closed practice, now, by the way, you don't need a human being, a biped, to gatekeep magic ever. If somebody's telling you, oh, no, you cannot do that, it's a closed practice. If you try to approach a closed practice and you're not welcome in there, because not everything, closed practices are, you have to be born into a particular discipline or practice. However, we have multiple lifetimes, and so we haven't always looked like this. You could actually have a genetic and an ancestral tie,
Absolutely.
Tie to something. So if you want to go forward and look at hoodoo practices, the worst that will happen is it doesn't work for you. If something isn't part of the realm that you're meant to be dwelling in, it will not work for you. So you don't have to worry too much. But hoodoo, by the way, is not voodoo. Voodoo is a form of religion, and hoodoo is a form of folk magic typically practiced by African American people.
Right. So, with my question, it says, how does a spiritual tradition enhance your healing work? And how do you integrate part of its principles into your approach for holistic transformation?
Absolutely. So since it is like, I'll give you an example. I do
Sure.
something called the cut and clear to remove spiritual attachments,
Hmm.
and I combine it with something called the fiery wall of protection. Both of these spells are present in hoodoo practices and
Hmm.
in folk magic. So that is how it informs it. Now it is done with the help of the guardians who guard the four corners, who are the guardians of the elements: earth, air, water, and fire.
Hmm.
Earth is the Archangel Michael, water is the Archangel Raphael, fire is the Archangel Uriel in celestial and angelic magic, because that's divine fire. And then air, of course, is the Archangel Gabriel. And so I will call in the elements with the archangels. And again, it is part of the reason that I'm able to call in angelic presences, is because intent is everything in magic. Intent
Hmm.
is everything. And if you're using it for healing and expansion and to try and, find your purpose, that fits within the guidelines of celestial and angelic magic. But most celestial and angelic magic practitioners, there is a form that is actually Enochian or chaos magic, and that's how I help people understand it. It will sometimes use angelic symbols and sigils as well, but for the most part, I adapt it through folk magic or candle magic. And the reason I like folk magic so much is that, for instance, the spices in your pantry can be used for a prosperity spell.
Yeah.
It is very much based on what was available. Like cinnamon is one of the best prosperity spices, and there are very simplistic rituals that you can do to try and increase your money flow. Something like juniper is able to clear away darker energies. Juniper berries are known to help with male arousal, by the way, so you can do spells for that as well. I don't at celestial and angelic magic, but that's the type of thing.
Yeah.
It takes everyday ingredients, and since it is the magic of folk magic, it isn't, you don't have to be consecrated or like there's no, it's usually a soul practitioner's
Right.
route. So it's not stuffy or ritualistic. It
Hmm.
is to the needs of the moment, and it is very flexible and allows people to be very much in touch with their own power. It's a form of green witchery as well, or kitchen witchery.
That's
So kitchen
awesome.
witchery is where you use things and you can cook a soup and have it be magic.
No, that's so. Let me ask you this. So, you've had a lot of appearances on various podcasts and media outlets that have demonstrated your impact on the spiritual community. Can you share how your experiences in the public eye have further amplified your mission to bring healing, insight, and empowerment to a wider audience?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started this out, I was more focused on like the personal
Hmm.
aspect of tarot. As I did more and more interviews and talked to more and more people around basically the world, because Karen Montowski is the person who first started having me on podcasts, and like it caused me to have a global reach. And I was very fortunate in that. She's a wonderful person. She's a good friend. But what happened was that when people were coming to me again, asking about the outcomes in their life, and I was using the cards, I realized, well, it's your relationship with your mom. It looks like when you were like 4, that like she frequently punished you, wouldn't feed you enough, and you had a hypercritical parent. And understanding why we approach ourselves the way that we do empowers people and frees them and heals them.
Mm.
And so that exposure, as I was on more outlets, and like I'm not a super well-known tarot reader, but I've had decent exposure. I've been very, very fortunate.
Hmm.
It caused me to reevaluate how I was approaching tarot and what it could do. Because at first, I really did just want to be a YouTube reader. And then I realized that all of the pick a cards and things that I was doing that were doing well, which the standard is 1,000 views within one day. And I started having that on a regular basis. They were all love readings. And I realized that when people are looking to an exterior relationship to help fill in the things that are making them unhappy, it doesn't last very long, and it puts the control of their happiness and ultimately their power
Hmm.
into the hands of another person. Romantic love is awesome, and I'm not denigrating anything going on YouTube at all, but I realized that if I helped people heal within and embrace their own power and trust themselves more and understand why maybe they don't in the first place, that I could do something that might have a more profound impact on a person's life, and ultimately help with people finding their purpose. Because I do this not to help people in the romantic realm as much as help the world figure out how to heal itself. Because when we are in alignment, we are standing in our power, and then we can decide what to do with this. And that's what I decided to do with my tarot and with my magic, and being on different podcasts and being quoted in different things about magic really just honed my focus more and more as to what I wish to do with what is termed a gift for a reason, to try and help people interact with the world in a way that would make things better. Because ultimately that's what we all want. We just want this place to get better.
That's
At least
beautiful. Though how you just said that was beautiful. Like that is amazing. I mean, to empower someone to be able to heal themselves, that trickles out to be able to heal the planet, which is a
exactly.
beautiful mission. So if anyone is interested in, learning more about you, booking a session, the best place for them to go to.
At therisingmoon.com. That's my website. You can also find me through Logical Magic Examining Esoterica, because there's always going to be links in all of the description boxes, and then on my YouTube channel as well. But the easiest way to find me is at therisingmoon.com, where you can book a life coaching session or a tarot reading. And sometimes I will teach people magic, but I do teach celestial and angelic magic. And you do have to have kind of decided that what your intent for the use of that magic is to help others. It can't be used for baneful purposes. There's only one form of curse that can be used in celestial and angelic magic, and that's called the God's Justice Curse, which is a form of, for the good of this person's higher self, I ask that their karma be returned to them tenfold within this lifetime so that they can learn. And it has to be done in a non-vengeful way. So that's literally the only form of curse it can be used for. So I do teach that as well, and it's all at my website.
So one more question before we wrap this up. I guess if somebody is, like you said, intention, that's very important. Energy follows intention. And when they come to you, they have to have the right intention. What do you feel what is the best intention? They have to be able to heal others, or what is something somebody's coming looking for you? What is a good intention that they may have in their heart? Maybe they don't know that they have that intention yet.
The best intention is to find the best version of you that you can be, whether it's the kindest or the most powerful. For healers, I attract a lot of healers, how to access your compassion for self as well as others. When we're healing, we can only give healing energy at the level that we are healed. So the first thing to start with is, how do I heal my own psyche, my own soul, to find the most powerful and the most connected version of myself? And then also learning how to walk forward with kindness to yourself and others. And so many, particularly women, if you identify as a woman, have been schooled to approach themselves in this hypercritical manner, where self-doubt has been deeply ingrained into their psyche. Learning how to overcome that without the need to. I saw something on TikTok talking about how they should never speak to themselves in anything other than really positive ways. And it's like, well, slight adjustment to that. You can hold yourself accountable kindly. Like, I will always be working on my patience. And so when I have a moment, because we will stumble and fall sometimes, and you have to be able to evaluate it and go, what caused it? Understanding the cause of something usually gives you the materials for the solution. If you don't understand why you're doing something, it will happen over and over again because you have not identified the cause. And that is the thing to go forward is, I want to understand why I do the things I do, why I think the things I do, and why I speak to myself in the way that I do. And how can I learn to approach myself in a way that benefits myself and others, so that I can be the most powerful version of myself that I can be.
That is beautiful. Well, Alane, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I want to say thank you to you and your dog, Oscar.
Puddles is in the background, but her head doesn't pop up.
Thank you, Pebbles. Thank you so much for coming on. You were a wonderful guest.